Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be previewing and giving you all the info you need to know about the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery. Now if this lottery were to go normally, there wouldn't be as much to talk about in today's video, but with 24 different teams being included in the 2020 playoffs, there is a lot different about this NHL Draft Lottery. So, how will this whole lottery system work this time around, and what are the things you need to know heading in to this 2020 Draft Lottery? Watch till the end for all the info and my thoughts, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now the first thing you need to know about this NHL Draft Lottery is when it will actually happen. It'll be held on June 26th. The time will be 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, so 6 p.m. Mountain and 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be streaming this whole event on my channel, so subscribe if you haven't already. It's going to be an awesome night, especially with the potential teams that could go first overall. Now the next thing you need to know about this draft lottery system is the teams that could be involved. And this is where we get into some of the confusion around this system, so I'll do my best in this video to explain it to you guys if you don't know already. Now first and foremost, we have the potential for two different lotteries, but it first starts out with this first one on the 26th. It involves 7 different NHL teams, the 7 teams that missed out on these playoffs. You got Detroit with the best odds, then Ottawa, the Sens with the Sharks pick, you got the Kings, the Ducks, the Devils, and the Sabres in that order. And let's say if this lottery were to happen where all 3 of those teams get the top 3 picks, there will be no second lottery. But the thing about this lottery is it's not just those 7 teams. You have, I'm pretty sure, 7 other balls or 8 other balls of the teams that will lose in the qualifying round. But we obviously don't know what those teams are yet, so they'll just be designated balls for the odds themselves. So if, let's say, one of those balls, like I think they have like ball Q or something, they have letters next to them. If one of those balls were to go into 3rd overall, then we would go to a second lottery after the qualifying round is done, seeing what teams were eliminated and fighting for that 3rd overall spot. That will be the second lottery. But again, let's say Detroit gets 1st overall, New Jersey gets 2nd, and then like a team like Anaheim gets 3rd. There will be no second lottery, and we will proceed with this draft order. Now the thing about that is if we get a second lottery, all of those team A through H would all get the same amount of odds. So let's say one of those balls got 3rd overall. All the teams that missed the qualifying round and lost in that qualifying round, so let's say it's Pittsburgh versus Montreal. If Montreal were to lose that series, they would be in this second lottery. Those would be the type of teams to fight for that 3rd overall spot. So then we would go to that second lottery to decide who gets that pick. It is pretty complicated, but bear in mind, it likely won't be the case that we see a second lottery, and if we do, it'll likely be over 1 pick. The crazy low odds of all 3 picks being qualifying teams is really slim, so I don't expect that happening anytime soon. Now the next thing you need to know about this draft lottery system is the actual odds involved. We have Detroit Red Wings, who have the best chance for the 1st overall pick with their pick with an 18.5% chance, but you also have Ottawa with 2 picks in that top 3 potentially. You have Ottawa with a 13.5% chance, and then them again with the Sharks pick, which has an 11.5% chance, then LA with a 9.5, Anaheim with an 8.5, New Jersey with a 7.5, Buffalo with a 6.5, and then you get into the qualifying round teams, which obviously have not been decided yet. But I mentioned earlier that if we go into that second lottery, then all the qualifying teams will have the same odds to get that pick. Well, it's different here. It's like what it normally would be, where the last team qualifying round, Team H, would get a 1% chance, but that's all the way at the bottom. You have a qualifying round Team A, which has a 6% chance to win this draft lottery. So it's pretty solid odds at that point. Obviously not as much as a Detroit or Ottawa with 2 picks there, but it is something. We could potentially see at least one of these picks end up going to a qualifying team, which let's say it's Pittsburgh, they somehow get beat by the Montreal Canadiens, they could have a chance, and a pretty decent chance, at Alexis Lafreniere. And although it is very confusing, and I couldn't really wrap my head around it in the first couple of days because it really was that jank, but once you get used to it, the possibilities here and the amount of fun that could be had is insane. Again, for a person that wants to see as much craziness as possible, which we saw a ton of in last year's lottery, this could be just insane. I mean, again, we look at the teams that could be in play for the first overall pick. Let's say you have 3 qualifying round teams that get the top 3 spots. You could have the likes of Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, even the team like a Toronto Maple Leafs potentially getting into that top 3, which is just insane considering teams like Detroit, which basically need anything they can get. And that leads me to the top 7 teams here who right now we know have the chance at Alexis Lafreniere and that first overall spot. We have Detroit, who could always fall down to number 4, but they could still get number 1. I think if they get number 1, they take Alexis Lafreniere, but let's say they get the second overall pick, that is a much different story because you have Steve Yzerman, who picked Moritz Seider in the last year's draft, and then you have this year with Tim Stutzle. He could potentially pick him number 2, and then you have the German connection there. At number 3, let's say they do have that and Quinton Byfield was already taken. I think they do go for Tim Stutzle, but also if Tim Stutzle was already taken, I think they do go for Quinton Byfield. Still, either way, I think they go for a forward in all 3 picks, whether it's Lafreniere, Stutzle, or Byfield. And then you have the Ottawa Senators, who I think are a lot more of a different story. Obviously, at number 1, I think they do take Alexis Lafreniere. 2 is kind of up in the air because I was maybe leaning towards Quinton Byfield with them, but also I could see them taking Tim Stutzle. But let's say they did get number 3, I could even see them taking a guy like Jamie Drysdale potentially. You could have that type of guy with Eric Brandstorm, Thomas Chabot, and just load up that defense. But I could also see Ottawa at the same time. If they got number 2 and number 3, you could have Quinton Byfield and then Tim Stutzle, which on top of their pretty impressive prospect pool already makes them absolutely insane. But again, no other team in this draft will have the amount of options at that spot than Ottawa. They have 2 potentially top 5 picks, and the lowest I think they can go is number 5 and number 6. So even if they drop all the way, those are some fantastic players to choose from. At that spot, you could have guys like Lucas Raymond, Jamie Drysdale, Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti. Really, the options are limitless for them. And again, at the same time, they could go number 1 and number 2, which is obviously the ideal scenario for Ottawa. Then you have the LA Kings, who come in with a 9.5% chance to get Alexis Lafreniere, which is not bad whatsoever. Obviously, at number 1, I think they do take Alexis Lafreniere, but at number 2 and number 3, I think it makes a lot more of an interesting question because I think they're more in need of a winger. Obviously, their prospect pool is great, but especially center-wise, they're absolutely loaded. So I don't think they need a Quinton Byfield. I don't think they need a guy like a Tim Stutzle. They could probably, if they get the number 2 or number 3 pick, maybe move back a bit, maybe at number 5 or number 6, look at a guy like Jamie Drysdale, maybe even a guy like Jake Sanderson. I don't know if I would take Jake Sanderson in the top 10 right now, but LA and a lot of other teams I feel might take that risk. And then you have the Anaheim Ducks, who are kind of in this weird area where if they get Alexis Lafreniere at number 1, they take him obviously. At number 2 though, and number 3, I think they do still go for a center, but Jamie Drysdale would be really, really tempting. At number 2, I still think they take a guy like Quinton Byfield, who would be absolutely amazing alongside a guy like Trevor Zegras. But at number 3, as I said before, I think Jamie Drysdale will be very enticing. They don't really got too much in the prospect pool defensively, and at number 3, if they had the chance, I think Drysdale might be their pick. And then you have the New Jersey Devils, who come in with a 7.5% chance to get that first overall pick. Obviously, at number 1, like the other teams, I think they take Alexis Lafreniere. But at number 2 and number 3, it gets a lot more interesting. At number 2, I think they do take Quinton Byfield, even though their center group is absolutely loaded. But just like the Anaheim Ducks, I think at number 3, it will be really tempting for them to go with Jamie Drysdale, or maybe a Lucas Raymond, maybe even an Alexander Holtz, who could slot alongside a guy like Jack Hughes and potentially have him score upwards of 30, maybe even 40 goals. That's pretty cool. I'm just saying. And then you have the last of the bottom 7 teams in the Buffalo Sabres, and man, they have been the talking point of the past few weeks, and for good reason. They fired pretty much their whole scouting staff. We'll see how that works, Cotton. It's a bold move, I must say. At the same time, for Buffalo, at number 1, they do take Alexis Lafreniere. At number 2, I think they do take Quinton Byfield, a guy who can just absolutely plow through other defenses. We have a guy like Jack Eichel as their number 1C, Quinton Byfield as their 2C. Number 3, I still think they would take a forward. I think Jamie Drysdale would be kind of tempting, but at the same time, if they have a guy like Tim Stutzle or Lucas Raymond available, I think they do take those guys over the D-man right now. Especially with Rasmus Dahlin selected in the past couple of years, and now Henry Jokiharju as another young stud coming onto that D-core. But there you have it. That is it for today's preview. Just saying, if I was going to root for one team to win the first overall pick, it would probably be Alexis Lafreniere on the Ottawa Senators. I just want to see that happen so badly, and you have another chance at a top 3 pick, and I'm just thinking, Alexis Lafreniere and Quinton Byfield going to the Ottawa Senators, that is absolutely insane. But of course, with today's video, I need to hear y'all's thoughts down in those comments down below. Let me know what you think. What team do you want to see win the draft lottery, and what do you predict to happen inside the top 3? Comment down below all your thoughts. Share this video with friends. Get it out there. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. And of course, subscribe. Do everything, boys. And click on this card right here to watch all of my 2020 NHL draft content. I don't know why I'm whispering, but it's just the way it is. I love you. Goodbye.